We have an incredible guest with us tonight. So my guest tonight is an incredible actress who's been killing it on screens, big and small, ever since she was just 11 years old. Whether you remember her as Chris's little sister Tonya on Everybody Hates Chris, or you've seen her amazing portrayal of Olympic gold medalist Gabby Douglas, or you recognize her from her current gig as Dana on Mythic Quest, it's easy to see why everybody loves tonight's guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm pop culture welcome to the incredible Imani Hakim. Yay!
Yay! Wow, what an intro!
I try to give you a little something. Thank you so much for being on the show, for joining us tonight, for being with the audience. I thank you wholeheartedly.
Thank you. Yeah, no problem.
I know we had some tech issues. We're good. Everything's great. You sound good. You look good. We're rocking and rolling. Everybody is in the chat saying welcome and hello. So guys, as always out there, if you have questions for Imani, feel free to throw them in the chats. I will read them off where appropriate. And we'll go with that. So right out the gate, I want to ask you, I ask all my guests this, what is your connection to the military, be it US or foreign?
My connection to the military, my aunt on my dad's side served when she was younger, but also she spent some time in the military, but then because of some health issues, she, was no longer able to serve. But I think that's my only connection to the military, but she served very proudly for the short time that, she was involved.
Right on. That's a wonderful connection. Were you close with her, or is it more of like a distant?
I am close with her. I think she served before either I was very young or before I was even born. So
okay. Yeah. Well, we appreciate her. Thank her for her service. That's very awesome.
Absolutely.
We have lots of different branches that are represented here. Myself was Army, but we have a lot of them represented in the audience as well. Okay, so a little bit, I pride myself in getting to know my guests before we speak. I really like to dig in and get to know their body of work, what their interests are, hobbies, things like that. And I have to tell you, you are a very fascinating but exclusive kind of person. You
okay.
And I mean this all positively, but that you everything I could find about you, it fascinated me. But you do kind of hold it close to the vest. You kind of keep certain things to yourself, which I respect that. In a day and age where everything is just public, you have done an excellent job of keeping some things to your private self, which I really respect for that.
Thank you. The older I get, I've made it more of a goal because, as you're sort of developing during my teenage years and my older, in my early 20s, it was sort of like I would overshare a little bit. And I think the older that I get, the more life experience I gain, I just crave this, privacy and just keeping things, intimate. And it's funny that you even brought that up because I'm taking an Instagram break and I haven't been on since November. And so I just feel like it's very important because everything is so accessible now. Mm-hmm. I feel like it's important for us to kind of like pull back and be present to what's happening right now, right next to us, and not get too hung up on the internet because everything is so, curated. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's very important to me.
It is true. I didn't want to call you out for not posting, but that's great. That's great. And especially it's the time for family. It's the time for reflection. It was the holiday season. So I think everybody deserves to take a little break from all that 24/7 in your face kind of stuff. So you deserved it.
For sure. Thank you. It's good to have a hiatus. It could be addicting.
Absolutely. This is actually our first episode of the new year. We took our little holiday break. So you are coming strong out the gate representing 2022. So we really appreciate it.
Love it.
So you were born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio.
Yes.
You have 2 older brothers, 3 younger brothers. And in my digging in about you, I found that you've been creative and interested in that creative process of writing and performing from as early as 7 years old. And that you studied acting at the Caramoo House Theater in Cleveland. What what can you remember at that age, at 7 years old, what was it about performing that it was such a passion for you?
First of all, let me just like nod to you for doing your research and your homework. Yes, come on. But yes, Caribou House Theater. Yeah, wow. It was just such a huge part of my development. I'll start there. But before I even got to Caramoo House, I just, you know, I love spending time alone and just creating and being in my room, and that's sort of how I got my feet wet. I, as you mentioned, I have all brothers, so um, I didn't have any sisters, so it wasn't like I had like a constant playmate. So I just took that and used my imagination to, create worlds, create friends, create all these things, and turned it into an outlet. And then my dad saw that and he was like, okay, my kid is clearly a weirdo. Let's put her into put her into some theater or something. And that's how I really got to express myself, because I was also sort of, I wouldn't say shy, but more reserved. And I feel that acting and creating and writing and different just art just helped me come alive in that way. And so it was sort of like this voice that I didn't know that I had. And so yeah, it's a great outlet.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Um, and so, because before we get into the career, I really want to get to know the person. I want to get to know the person who was
Yeah.
there before the career, which for you is a little difficult because you started at 11. There wasn't much of a person. I don't mean to say that badly, but at 11 years old, you don't have a long life before acting. So
You're just finding out what your favorite color is, really,
right. I have a
Yeah.
4-year-old, and I couldn't imagine in a couple years him going like, "All right, man, I want to get in the business. Let's go." And that blows
Hmm.
my mind. So what's fascinating is that you obviously, from 7 on, you're training, you're doing these different things. At 11, you convince your dad to just pack it all up, pick everybody up, drive across the country, and go to LA to chase your dream of acting, which I need to understand. How did you convince that man at 11 years old that like this is the thing to do? Cuz I know a lot of 11-year-olds and they can't convince me to give them an Oreo, let alone pack up my life and move it to LA. So how'd you do it?
You know what? It didn't take much convincing at all. If anything, it was probably reversed. It wasn't like it was more like, I see something in you from him, from a dad's perspective, and this is what I think we could do about it. How do you feel about it? And I'm like, hell yeah, we're going to LA, even though it wasn't that simple, but that's basically how it happened. And so we packed up all of our stuff. It was just my dad and I at first, drove across the country 3 or 4 days. Our van was breaking down. We were living in our van once we got to LA, and didn't have any connections or relationships. And then my dad even turned to me again, was like, this isn't really a living condition for an 11-year-old child. I think I wasn't even, we were having trouble with the schooling situation. So he was just like, we can leave if you want to. I'm like, no, I'm willing to stay out here as long as it takes. And so it was just kind of like a mutual thing that we just happened to be on the same page,
Wow.
and usually it's hard because sometimes it's like a parent making a decision, or the kid having to package it for their parents to be like, please let me chase my dreams. But it wasn't like that. It was just like, you want to do this? Yeah, I'm in. This sounds fun. Let's do it together.
Wow. He sounds like an incredible man. So you're very lucky to have that kind of support. I did a couple of high school musicals, but nobody was
Okay.
ready to pack me and send me to LA. So life took a different
That's all
path.
right. It's scary. It's a scary decision to make.
I can't imagine. I can't imagine. As an adult, I'm an established adult with an income. If you told me I had to pack up and move to LA right now, I'd be like, I can't do that. That's crazy. So for you to be,
Yes.
maybe it's the magic of being an 11-year-old. We're like, everything's gonna be fine.
That's the point. That's the thing. It's crazy because if that conversation were to happen right now, would I be able to still be uninhibited with my decision making? I don't know. But as an 11-year-old child, that's the imagination. I think it's just like I'm not worried about bills and all that stuff like my dad might be thinking. So I of course I'm going to be like move to a warmer place.
Yeah,
Yes. Be on television? Absolutely. You know.
yeah. And now yours is a triumphant story in that going from a practically unheard of to 3 months later, you show up or you're in LA. 3 months later, you book Everybody Hates Chris. What for you? Because I can't imagine that level of success. That's like I release a podcast and then next week I'm as big as Joe Rogan, and it's like that's a very drastic change for anyone, let alone an 11-year-old. So what was going through your mind as like this stuff is happening to you?
I feel that I didn't even know what was going on because there's no rule book, there's no guidebook. No one's going to be like, okay, this is how your life is going to change. Something as simple as, oh, now I have to look a certain way when I go out in public,
Mhm.
or there are going to be people touching my face and my clothing and all this stuff like all the time. It's just like the smallest things that you just no one could really prepare you for. But yeah, I think for the most part, the people around me tried to keep me grounded from my manager to my dad to my brothers. I still had to go home and do chores even though I was on a TV show. There was still a bedtime or whatever it
Uh,
was, but um, yeah, but then there's also the other side of that where you're in the grocery store and someone's like, I hate your character, like, you're just like, what? So it's weird, but luckily, I think for me, I think it would have been different if there was more of like a skyrocket takeoff from that age. And luckily, the show was popular, but not so popular where I couldn't still live
right.
just a normal childhood life.
Mhm.
I got to still have my balance. So, but if I were a Disney kid, maybe it would be very, very different. But I'm lucky that I got to have some sort of contrast and find balance in that at such a young age.
Yeah, sure. You want steady growth, right? You don't want the
Yeah.
skyrocket, which people tell me, oh, any day you're gonna go viral. I'm like, I don't want to go viral. I don't want that because that is not a sustainable thing. It sets expectations and all these different things.
Yeah.
I watched was it the reunion special of Harry Potter, and they talk about there's these little
Oh, I
kids,
gotta watch that.
and it rocks their life. Your life is completely different from that day on. You need security, and you can't live a normal life, and it sounds horrible. So that was one of my questions, was how was that, and you answered it. So great, you're right on schedule. Um,
Yes, I hope so.
so so a little bit more before we talk about Everybody Loves Chris, because I mean it's a great show. Um, you have described yourself as a homebody, saying you prefer staying in and watching Netflix instead of going out. Um, would I be wrong in saying that you're also a little bit of a nerd? Is that right?
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, there's a difference, but I want to preface this by saying there's a difference between nerd and geek,
Sure. Oh,
or just
absolutely.
something. So, um, I wouldn't say that I'm a geeky, but think I have my nerd tendencies.
Sure.
And so, yeah, I just like my little quirks, but I think we're normalizing the nerd.
Yeah. No,
It's
absolutely.
kind of not so far-fetched anymore. Everybody's a nerd.
Yeah, it's not a bad word anymore. It's like,
Mm-mm.
it is the thing. But because I might have seen some pictures of you reading kind of like comics and or
Yeah.
the collect, what they call the collections, the novels. But I know
Yeah.
you're into anime too, right? What anime are you into?
Yeah. I really love Hunter. Is it Hunter x Hunter or Hunter by Hunter?
Yeah.
What's the correct way to say that.
That's one
You know?
I'm not as familiar with. You're cutting deep.
Okay.
You're cutting deep on that one.
Okay. Because someone told me it was Hunter by Hunter. I'm like, but I don't know. But I really love that one, and I wanted to come back, but I don't think it will. Attack on Titan is really
Mm.
really good. I actually haven't watched the newest season yet because I was waiting for it to all be released. So I could just binge watch it. Um, what else? Obviously, the classic Naruto is how I got my intro to it. I will go back and watch it as many times because I think it's just so good and it never gets old. Even with all the filler episodes, it's a great anime. But
Any Dragon Ball Z in
yeah,
there? I mean, come on. That's a classic.
my brothers were big Dragon Ball fans. I think I didn't understand what I was watching back then. But I do have an appreciation for it. I just didn't appreciate it at the time when it was really, really popular.
Right.
So maybe if I go back and watch it now that it is something that I adore, I will maybe find
Yeah, because
more appreciation for it.
I saw a thing that said your hobbies include dance, music, reading, and martial arts. And I was like, I wonder if that comes from the anime. Is it the martial arts because it's what you
Ah,
saw in cartoons, or is it martial arts really like?
no.
Did you grow up watching Karate Kid? What was it?
No, this is who my dad is. Let me tell you who my dad is. He's like, you guys are gonna learn martial arts, especially me being the only girl. He was, he was like, you're gonna be tough, even though I'm such a sensitive, soft, emotional little being. I'm so empathetic that I just can't look at something or hear something without crying. So I think it was just his way of like, you can shake it off and toughen up. And so my dad would teach us a jujitsu ground fighting. He studied and then he taught it, passed it down to us. So I would my test would be to learn the jujitsu ground fighting, and then he would even have me go up against the neighborhood boys to show them that just because I'm a very petite young girl doesn't mean I can't kick your ass, you know. And so I would, and but it's been a long time since I practiced some martial arts. I'm a bit out of practice, but that is the history of how I got into that. My daddy, you
Very
know.
cool. Very cool. First question from the audience. So this is off my script. Uh, who is an actor slash actress that you met and were starstruck by?
Oh, yeah. Ooh, I would say Will Smith. I did a movie called Reign Over Me when I was around 12 years old. Don Cheadle played my father, Jada Pinkett Smith played my mother, and I love Jada Pinkett Smith as well. And so Will Smith came to set one day visiting, and that was when and Will Smith is still Will Smith, but that was, Will Smith was Will Smith, like in
Right.
the height of all of his
Yeah.
action movies and just killing it. And I was just like, I can't believe that I'm at work right now as a 12-year-old girl and Will Smith is right there hugging Jada Pinkett Smith. And he's like, he picked her up because she's so tiny and he's just swinging her around. And I was just like, this is so cool. This is my life. This is awesome.
That is a great. Will Smith is always a great answer. So outstanding. A
Yeah.
plus.
And he's so kind and nice.
Yeah, he's seen. There's certain people. They tell you never meet your heroes. I'm personally, I love Back to the Future growing up, so I did get to meet Michael
Mm.
J. Fox, and it was the scariest day of my life. But man, he's just the nicest guy. Oh, he's a sweetheart. So those are always the best when you get to meet someone
Luckily, I haven't met any jackasses yet. Not anyone. Like, I'm happy to say
that
that,
you're
like,
allowed to talk about. Right? Yeah.
that I'm allowed to talk about. But no, like I can't. Even if we weren't live right now, I'm trying to think of like any people that are like of height of career. I can't really recall anybody that's been a total dick
Yeah.
to me. So I'm
And I
lucky.
mean, kids in Hollywood, actor kids tend to have a reputation, not for the most part, but that they can be very, dramatic. They can be very prima donna, or like, you have these coming out of these prestigious schools and things like that. Did you ever have any beef with any other acting kids?
I'm not. That's a really weird question because I don't think it was like it was sort of not really beef, and I don't know if it had to do with there was some ego. you are auditioning and you're seeing the same people over
Mm,
and over while you're auditioning. And you're also, what sucks is you're also in the same friend group as homeschool kids because we're all homeschooled. So we just hang out at the same time. So it's like you're friends, but you're also like auditioning for the same thing. So naturally, I think not that there's beef, there's a little competitive spirit.
sure.
And so,
Yeah.
yeah,
I think
but
like almost like
you outgrow that.
sports teams, right? Like where it's like you have kind
Yeah.
of a respect for the other guys because they're in the same field, but at the same time you're like, I want to beat
Yeah.
them.
Yes,
Okay,
exactly.
excellent, excellent. So, and one thing I do want to note to let the audience know because it's something that I learned is that here you are, you book Everybody Hates Chris. You're 11 years old. You do it for 4 seasons, and I mean, it was hugely popular. It was very popular. I remember it being very popular, and I loved it when I watched it at the time.
Mm.
And even while doing that, I saw that you were also still studying acting at like the was it the Alexander's Workshop School in Lakewood and at the Young Actors Space in Burbank, California. So you were working
Yeah.
and learning at the same time. Was that difficult at all? Were you like, oh man, like because does that make you hard on yourself? Because you're like, I just did a scene and now I'm practicing a thing and like, oh, I messed up, and then kind of going back and forth with that.
Yes, I'm a perfectionist. I can be very hard on myself. It's really tough to find that balance. And I just feel like for any kids or any younger people who want to get into the industry, and if they're still in school, you just have to like really, really love it, and um, being able to, again, like have that balance of just being a child, but also going to acting class and working on my craft, but not only studying there, having to get a certain grade point average to be able to work. So being, finding that balance is just, it's challenging. And I wasn't very good at it, but I made it work to the best of my ability, but yeah, you just really have to love it because it's no easy feat at all. Not at all.
No, that's amazing. And
Yeah.
there's so much like getting to learn about you. I mean, you're an actress, you're a producer, you're a director, you're a writer, you're a humanitarian. I mean,
Mm,
all those things. I mean, is being an actress, is that like the passion? Is that the top thing? Do you strive to be more of a director? Do you strive to be more of a writer? Where does that break down for you?
mm. Wow, great question. Thank you. I honestly love it all, and I think that acting for a long time, and it's something that I love. I love. I love. But I also look at it as a way, as a gateway to do so much more because as an actor it's great, but there's only so much limited power, quote unquote power that you have. And I think that I really want to inflict change. And how do I do that? It takes being at the actual table, the people who make the decisions, and that comes with like producing or directing or whatever, or just doing more things behind the scenes. But I think that acting is something I'm very passionate about, but I think it's also just like, it's all just a stepping stone to, branch wider, So,
Awesome,
yeah.
awesome, great answer. Great answer to a great question.
Thank you. Thank you.
So another question from the chats from Tim. What was the first big ticket item that you bought to spoil yourself?
Big ticket item that I bought to spoil myself. Someone asked me this question before, and honestly, because I was 11 and because we were quote unquote kind of homeless, we were living in our van. We got an apartment and some food, Tim. We we got the things that we needed. So I feel like that was a big ticket item for us to have like a really nice apartment.
Hmm,
Um, Outside of that, I'm trying to recall. I think I got my dad a car, but again, it was a used car because we were also frugal.
that's smart.
But yeah. But as an adult, let's see. as an adult in my adult career, I think it was a new car because I drove the same car for a very long time. So
There you go. You gotta treat yourself
yeah,
sometimes. I'm all for saving and being
yeah,
smart, and once in a while, you gotta enjoy it while you got it, right? Uh,
yes, for
and
sure.
Tim said outstanding, so he liked your answer.
Thanks, Tim.
So okay, so everybody hates Chris. I mean, what a phenomenal show. I know it only ran for 4 seasons, 88 episodes. But it's something that is still relevant today. It is still beloved today. It's still watched in syndication, both here and abroad. I've been around the world. I can tell you, it's been seen on a lot of different TVs. Um, what do you think about it now that it's still such a beloved sitcom?
It almost feels like it's even more loved now. As to your point, it is worldly watched. Like the impact that it's had on Brazil. I don't know. You've done some work and you've seen those comments. But yeah, I think when we were in it, it didn't feel that massive to me. Um, Granted, we didn't have the internet back then, so everything just sort of feels bigger in a way. Um, but yeah, I think for me, it feels more like a aha moment, or I pinch myself now these days to know that people are still watching it. There's a, I, what was it, like a week or two ago? I was, my partner and I just moved into a new spot and we were doing some shopping, and there were I got recognized from Everybody Hates Chris 3 times that week, which doesn't ever happen in LA. It usually happens like when I'm traveling outside of
Wow.
Los Angeles because people don't normally come up to me in LA. If they do recognize me, they're like, "You look familiar," you know. But and I was just like, "That's so strange," and I'm so grateful that people still watch the show,
Yeah.
and still have so much appreciation and even tell me how much the show has meant to them and how it inspired them to be an actor and how it's meant so much to them as a little black girl or whatever it was. It's just it's so important, and it still is, and I'm a fan of the show because I think we were doing stuff that other shows weren't doing right there, and we were so unapologetically black on when it wasn't really no, acceptable to be
Sure.
like that,
Yeah.
so yeah, I'm very grateful that that's been such a huge part of my journey, and it still resonates with people so strongly. So yeah, it's a freaking awesome show.
It was very un Cosby show. If you get what I'm saying,
Yeah.
you know what I mean.
Yes.
It really did. Now, I mean, you don't know. I grew up in New York City. I grew up in the ghetto. I grew up in Spanish Harlem. So I understood living on the block. I understood, living on top of each other and all the things. So, even as not as a black man, but as a Spanish man, it resonated
Hmm.
with me. And like I see myself in some of those characters. I see my situation
Hmm.
represented when, you watch Friends. It was like, I live in New York City. My situation resembles nothing of Friends
Nothing.
by no
Nothing.
stretch of the imagination. So a show
Yeah.
like that did resonate with me so much, and it meant so much to me to know that, like, oh yeah, my family's pretty, it's pretty crazy too. My family's pretty, and it normalizes it. Like, oh look, there are
Yes.
nobody's perfect.
Nobody's perfect. Even for me, being on the show, I like came in, 2 older brothers. There I am playing a character who has 2 older brothers. My mom would pop me in a second. She didn't play any games. My dad was also very like, is when I would ask to purchase something, he's just like, is it a necessity? Like, even after we started making money, it was always, is it a necessity? And like, that's your favorite word. But yes, it resonates. And it's still to this day, it's so it resonates so hard.
Mm,
But I love that you had that connection and experience with the show as well, that it was
absolutely.
able to like cross cultures, and that's the point of what we do.
Absolutely. Especially there weren't a lot of Spanish families on TV at the time. So, it was the closest
Yes.
thing I could get, and I would loved it. Um
Hell yeah.
what is your and I know you're 11 through 15 during that period of time. Do you have like what's a favorite memory? Like when you think back, it's that first thing that just kind of snaps to you all the time that it's just your favorite thing to think back to about that time?
Ooh, I have a couple that just popped into my mind. Excuse me. One of the first things that popped into my mind, I think it was Christmas time, or maybe it was just because, but it was season one. I think it was the end of season one or season two, early on in the show. And Terry Crews bought all of the kids on the show iPhones, and I was like, oh, that's so nice. Is this what people do? We just buy each other gifts, you know? And so I think from then on, when I am on a project that I just really adore and I love the people, I, give rap gifts because I think it made me feel so good. Not because it was an iPhone, but because someone gave me
Mm.
something. And so I try to implement that into other projects that I work on because it just feels really good to give and to see their reaction when they receive, So that's one of
Yeah.
my favorite memories.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And just so you know, you're getting a lot of kudos in the chats. They're not questions, but people just saying about how like they appreciate what you're talking about. That we always can be our own worst enemies and worst critics. That they love how your childhood makes you so down to earth now, and that you're invited to our next cookout. So you're getting lots of love
Yes.
from the audience.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So
Thank you.
do you keep up with, I know the business, I know it's hard. Everybody's off working and doing their own projects. You never really face to face with anybody, but do you try to keep up with some of the cast from that show?
Yes. And in our own version of that, because again, we were so young when we were on the show, so it wasn't like we were all BFFs or whatnot,
Mm.
but we stay connected through social media, the power of social media. And every once in a while, I might send a DM and be like, hey, I'm thinking about you. I just wanted to send you, like, do a little check in. But, like, as when we were on the show, the kids were hanging out all the time, like,
Sure.
all the time. They were my brothers. But as
You
of
didn't have
now,
enough.
because I know. I need more. I just need more brothers. But now, because we've all gone our separate ways and we're all, fully into adulthood, it's not like a constant communication. But what's really nice is Terry Crews loves to, have birthday parties or whatever it is. And that's sort of usually like our mini reunions. And it's always so much love from just the people that were in front of the camera, the family that but also the people behind the camera, like Owen, who did our voiceovers, or he would do the narration for us when we were filmed,
Mm.
and they would of course dub it with Chris Rock's voice. But now he's a showrunner for the last OG, and so it's just so much love and support. So though we don't talk every day, whenever we see each other, it's just like I cry. It's one of those moments where I just cry because
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's such a
I'm an emotional person.
that's a foundational kind of part of your life. That's the building blocks of what became your career. So it makes sense to be emotionally connected to that part of your life. Um,
Yes, very much.
Last question I'll ask you about this one. If you can channel 11-year-old Imani,
Mm.
you just booked this thing. You know, if I were to ask her, what does success look like for you being an actress? What will you define success as? Can you remember what you might have thought at that time? What was success for you?
Yeah, I think for me at that time, it was, I think it was the thought. This is such a crazy thought for me to have at 11, but it was the weight of being able to get my family out of the hood. That was what it was for me, like to be able to be in a life-changing position where we get to experience things and see things in a new light that we've never ever seen, that we never thought were possible. And I think even when I found out that I got the role of Tanya, I remember where I was. We were in a McDonald's parking lot, and I was doing my homework in the back of our van, and I got the call from my team. And I remember just sobbing for like 30 minutes because I'm like, I'm a millionaire. That's not true at all. But that's what it felt like. I was like, I can do so much stuff now, And I think I want to hold on to that, I want to hold on to that desire of just being like, this is to inflict change. Going back to that, it's like I do this because I want it to keep pushing us forward, whether it be my immediate family or friends or the community or whatever it is. I do this because I want it to, keep building and pushing us forward.
Oh, that's awesome. And sorry, one last thing, because I read too that you didn't originally read for Tonya, right? Didn't you audition for another character on the show? Or no, I'm sorry, that was Mythic Quest. We're gonna get to
Mythic
that.
Quest.
I'm
Yeah.
getting my notes confused, but awesome. So I mean, we're having such a good time. We haven't even got into the I'm gonna try to jump ahead a little bit because there's so much to talk about. I'm so fascinated with your career and the things you've done. I really want to talk about 2014, the Gabby Douglas story. I mean, that's a huge character to play, a huge because this is based on someone's life. You are representing what they stood for and what they accomplished. When you're deciding to go for to audition for that and try to get that role, do you feel any pressure with that of like, man, I got to do justice to this person's story?
Absolutely. And the way my anxiety was set up back then, it was really pressurized. Um, absolutely. Gabby Douglas is someone that I respect, and she did something so important and represented something so important. Um, and so auditioning for a role like that, like it was just, you just want to feel worthy of filling those shoes and telling and bringing that person's story to life on screen. And so I just wanted to do my due diligence. I wanted to respect her story in the, in the playground that they provided. But yeah, I just feel that it was just so important, and I'm just so grateful that I got to portray someone that was such a huge it has a huge impact on history, um but
Yeah.
yeah, man, absolutely, so much so much pressure.
For those in the audience that don't know, Gabby Douglas was an Olympic gold medalist in gymnastics. So obviously you had to do a lot of the moves or as best as you could, a lot of those moves. What was the preparation for a role like that?
Yeah, well, it was very quick. I'll tell you that much. I wanted it to be more time, but it wasn't, because it was a Lifetime film, so those type of projects tend to move very quickly. But I auditioned, did the callback, blah blah blah, that whole thing, booked it, and they're like, "Okay, you're flying out to Canada in 2 weeks," and I'm like, "Great." No, I don't even know if it was 2 weeks. Maybe it was. It was 2 weeks max. So I get to Canada. First of all, I'm like working out like crazy. Because I got to get those arms, those Gabby Douglas arms, and then also they provided some dance rehearsal, gymnastics rehearsal. We learned all the choreography. We worked with a local trainer and a coach there. Also, my lovely, lovely stunt double was amazing and very helpful on screen and behind the scenes. Just working with me hands on, and we worked so hard together, just matching each other's movements and stuff, so we could blend as fluently as we possibly could. But everybody was so helpful. My puppy just came outside to say hello. Hi, buddy. But yeah, but in the short time span that we had to get prepared, it was just like I was just on it
Yeah.
as best as I
What
could be.
in preparing for that role also and learning her story and getting familiar with her, was there anything about her story that really surprised you as you were kind of diving into it?
Yeah, I think for me, the surprise that I got with Gabby is how um, similar our stories sort of were, and how much we had in common. Just like the
Mm.
coming up through our chosen careers. So yeah, it was really nice to be able to resonate with something like that. Like I didn't feel like I had to dig so deep that it felt so foreign to me. I was lucky enough to have the life experience at however age, to be able to portray this story as authentically as I possibly could because we had so many similarities.
Right, right. And kudos to you because your performance was nominated for an outstanding actress in a TV movie or miniseries, which is, I mean, that's a huge accomplishment. And I looked at some of the other people that were nominated, and it was no slouch in that category. There was a lot of notable people, and here you are, just a couple years into your career. So what does that mean to you to get that kind of recognition, to be nominated for such an award?
These types of conversations are so important because we forget about these moments, right? And we forget to give ourselves, take a moment and give ourselves kudos because I didn't know. I just like forget. Like you're in the moment and you're just like, whether it's like it's exciting in the moment or it isn't good enough in the moment, and you just tend to forget. And so I just want to thank you really quickly to for reminding me that this stuff is happening and it has happened and it's so important, and I'm grateful for it all. But yeah, Gabby Douglas was just something. It's one of my favorite projects that I've ever worked on because of the experience, because of the story, and just being able to stretch my instrument in ways that I've never been able to do before. And also, like you said, just being mentioned in the same sentence as some other incredible performers, and overall, it's so important. And I look at all of my, my career thus far as just like it's all equally important, and Gabby Douglas, portraying Gabby Douglas, just really stretched me as a performer, but also as like a woman. It really helps in my development.
Yeah, yeah, and really, I mean, you've done so many things that I'm skipping over. Chocolate City, Sharknado, The Fourth Awakens, which
A classic.
I mean, real quick, I got one sec. That seems like the craziest possible movie to be on. Was it as ridiculous as it seems from an outsider's perspective?
Yes, it's absolutely ridiculous. It's silly. It's so funny because I mean, no spoilers. It's how many old, whatever, how many years old. So anyway, it's just ridiculous because it's not even like green screen, really.
Mhm.
You're just like out there with your guns, just shooting at nothing, screaming and running from sharks,
Mm.
you know,
Flying sharks,
in a
yes.
tornado, flying sharks, and it's so silly, but it was so much fun.
Yeah.
It's so much fun because it's silly. You're just having fun and laughing, and I had a blast.
Yeah, yeah, it's been so cool to watch as I look through your resume, and a lot of times people will get pigeonholed, as they're this type of character, they're this type of actor or what have you, and you go from the silly sitcom to something as serious as like a biopic with Gabby Douglas and Chocolate City, and then you go into something super silly with like Sharknado, and then in 2018 you did Cam, which was that psychological horror about the cam girl lifestyle. So the
Wow.
range that you have to be able to shift in and out, do you ever find that difficult, or is that kind of the joy of being that kind of actor that I can be super silly and funny, and then I can be super dramatic and scary? And where do you see it? Has it just been a fun thing, or is this a choice to kind of stretch yourself that way?
It's it's definitely intentional for sure. It's difficult in the way of getting the outside world to see you as more than just Tanya from Everybody Hates Chris, right? So it's like when you start so young, people think that they know you, they feel that they have a full idea of your range and what you're capable of. So the difficulty is being able to sort of prove them wrong, and prove yourself right that you're able to do other things than just a sitcom. You're not just a sitcom actor. Um, And on my side, of course, it's challenging, but that's why I do it. I'm not doing this to do the same thing over and over again. That's boring.
Mm.
I want to be able to do a psychological thriller and turn around and do a sitcom, and then go back and do an indie film, Burning Sands or whatever. I want to be able to switch it up because that's what makes it fun.
Sure.
Is being able, and also being on set with people who bring so many different tools that you don't necessarily have, and being able to learn from them. Like, that's one of my favorite parts, is being able to meet with new actors and work with new actors and being like, oh, this is one of my favorite moments that I've taken away from Regina King, and da 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 da. And that's the joy of it all.
Mm. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And to your point, I will say I'm guilty of it as an audience member. When I see Tyler, who played your brother Chris, and everybody, I saw him on The Walking Dead, and I immediately goes like, "Oh, that's Chris," and you can't help
Yes.
it because you grew up with that character, you know that character, you've spent so much time with that character that it can be hard to let them go and see them as a different person. Um, it's a there's comments I love where, like, any Nicolas Cage movie you see, it's Nicolas Cage in a different situation. Like, he's not a different character. It's just Nicolas Cage in a movie
Yeah.
and doing something. So,
But that's also okay. That's also okay. Get your coin however you need to get your coin. And some of us are, there's branches to it. There's levels to it. Some of us are TV actors. Some of us are film actors. Some of us are character actors. Some of us are,
mm,
there's different levels to it. There are people who know how to completely transform, and some of us just stay in our world and different versions of that.
right.
But I mean, it's all okay. It's just whatever makes you happy and what it brings you the joy in what you're doing.
Yeah. What gets you booked too,
Yeah,
if you
what's
book
up?
Johnny Depp, he's gonna go so far into that character that he's unrecognizable. But if you book, Nicolas
Exactly.
Cage, you're getting Cage.
You're gonna get Nicolas Cage. Yeah.
A question from Matt in the chats. I'm curious about the support of the parents during a child star's career. What are the challenges and the rewards, considering the stigma that comes with child actresses? So, is there support for the parents?
Like the parents directly.
Right, right.
Oh, I think that's what they meant, right?
I mean, sure.
That's a great question. I don't think there is. There should be, though, Matt.
Like,
Thank you
like a
for
support
that.
group.
I, yeah, there should be a support group. I think, especially for people who are so far removed from Hollywood. Sorry, my mouth is so dry right now. But yeah, like my dad, we had no zero idea of what Hollywood is, what it was, anything. And I feel that that's a great idea to have some sort of support group for parents, because you're hit with a lot of things,
Mm,
a lot of decisions that you need to make. Maybe you're not used to being uh, uh, having the financial literacy. It's just like so many things that's so new, especially for us. We didn't have those skills, and so a support group would have been very, very nice and
yeah.
necessary.
The
Yeah.
contracting, like, there's, how do you know what
Yeah,
to sign and look for in contracts so you're not getting screwed on something and ruining your
for
child's,
sure.
hard work and success. So that's a great, hey, Matt,
Yes.
let's do it. We're gonna start a support group for actors, child actors and actresses. Oh my God, we're running out of time.
No way.
I
I was 7 minutes late.
we'll go a couple more minutes if you're okay, if you're comfortable with that. We'll go a couple extra minutes. I do want to talk about Mythic Quest. So we're gonna jump ahead a little bit. 2020, first season of Mythic Quest. It is a comedy. Um, do you feel coming into that it is a return to, like, your TV comedy? It's not a family necessarily, but kind of a family. Did it feel like that, or did it feel something completely different and completely new?
Both.
All
Both.
right, fair.
I think, you know, for me, comedy is where I got my start. Everybody Hates Chris. Did that for 4 seasons, and then I never touched comedy again. That's what it felt like. And so I was like, I'm a drama actress, that's who I am. And then Mythic Quest came around, and I was like, oh shit, I don't how to be funny. And so it felt like, oh, I'm getting back to my roots because I've done this before, but also very new and foreign in a sense. And I, again, one of my favorite moments of working on new projects is being able to work with people who are so good at what they do, and I get to go to work um, and collab with people who are comedic geniuses. And so I feel like I'm in a master class every day on set. And so it's nice. And that's how it felt on Everybody Hates Chris. So it feels familiar, but also because so much time has
Mhm.
been in between, that it feels very new at the same time, especially because I'm a grown ass woman now. So
Yeah, I've
I'm
noticed.
receiving it on a different level. Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
I mean, it really is some top tier talent. I mean, Danny Pudi and just everybody on the show is so funny. Um, was it Charlie Day is one of the producers. I mean,
Yes.
there there's so much talent. I can't imagine what it's like trying to act with so many funny people. Like, is like how do you just keep it together? Like, I don't. It's a skill.
We
How do you do
don't. We don't. It's really difficult, especially with David Hornsby. He's so funny. I don't know if you watched season 2 at all, but there was the bottle episode when we're
it?
all in the uh, what is the bullpen, and David's doing his whole wolf bit, and we just couldn't make it through a take without breaking. Him jumping off the windowsill and rolling over the table was just so ridiculous. And we improv a lot on the show, so every time he was giving us something new. So we usually don't make it through a take, especially when David's in the scene, but we make it work. And that's again, like, it's one of my favorite parts. Is just like I want to go to work and have fun, and I get to laugh and bring myself to tears every time. That's so awesome.
Oh, that's great. And there's 2 seasons in the books. Back in October, it's announced you're renewed for a third and fourth season. What what are you most excited for? Coming up. I mean, what do you want to do with the character? See how it grows over the next 2 seasons.
Mm. Yeah, well, the way we ended season 2, it could have gone either way, right? It could have been like, this is the show. The show's over. It's done.
Mm,
Like, this is it. Or, who knows what we're going to do with season 3. So, what I'm really excited about, because in season 2, we were starting to explore and get to know Dana a little bit more, especially outside of her relationship with Rachel. And so we got to see her ambition and her drive. And so I'm just I'm excited to see how she develops and how she builds the confidence to go after what she wants, um and again, to keep exploring what her lane is in the world of Mythic Quest.
right.
Because I think she's pretty awesome, and I relate to Dana a lot.
Yeah. And for those that haven't seen it, I bad on me for not explaining. Mythic Quest is a great comedy TV series on Apple TV. It's basically about the team behind a video game, and the idea of putting out this expansion, and obviously very comedic. Her role is Dana. She's the QA, the tester, and it's really funny. It really is funny. I like it. It very much reminiscence for me of like Silicon Valley and that style of development and
Yes.
comedy and dramatic moments.
Yes.
And it's hard not to draw connections to like Community because you got Danny Pudi in there, and it's too
And
easy.
Megan Gans.
Yeah,
Yeah, writer.
it's hard. It's hard to not draw those conclusions, but it's a great show. I'm curious, how has the pandemic impacted the show, whether it be writing, filming, or releasing, in your opinion?
Oh, geez. Well, we were gearing up to film season 2 in 2020, and we were a week into production, and they shut us down, and it was, the whole, we're gonna shut down for 2 weeks, and then that turned into how long? I don't even know. And it turned into a long time. So then Rob and Megan and David Hornsby got really creative and wrote the quarantine episode that we shot all from the safety of our own homes. We were our own hair and makeup and directors and lighting and all the stuff that we were, doing. And we got our partners involved, and my partner was helping me set up lights and all the stuff. And so it affected it a lot, but it pushed production back, and we did get to film season 2 until almost, I think, like 8 months later or so. But we were able to create things that were a season of TV that we're very, very proud of, and episodes of TV that we're very, very proud of. And I think it's because it takes resilience, but also Rob and Megan, they're just such fearless leaders and very, very motivated and to get it done. And they're like, if you guys are down, and we're like, hell yeah, we're down. We love the show. I'm a fan of the show, and the rest of the cast were such huge fans of the show. So we were willing to do whatever it took to get the show back on the air.
Streaming. Yeah, sure.
Streaming
in the interwebs, in the clouds, all that stuff.
The interwebs, yeah.
I swear I'm gonna let you go now. Question: Marvel or DC? I'm just curious.
Marvel.
Oh, yes. Favorite?
Are you
favorite
DC?
No, I'm Marvel. I'm Marvel all the way. Like I am DC, man, but Marvel. You got Captain America's shield up there, and the Thanos gauntlet back there, and a bunch of nerd stuff. Who's your favorite character? Just out of curiosity. Hard choice.
I didn't have one, but recently, maybe it's because it just came out. Spider-Man he's dope. I feel like I slept on him a little bit, and I was just like, Spider-Man. Everyone loves Spider-Man, but he's great. Especially, I think, you know what it is? I think I just really love Tom Holland's version of Spider-Man. He's so perfectly cast as Spider-Man that it just makes sense,
It almost feels like if he got bit by a radioactive spider, he would be this selfless hero that would suit up and go fight crime. That just
absolutely
seems like what he would do. Awesome. I do want to let you go. We've kept you a few minutes extra. Where can people follow you? I know you've taken a little bit of a hiatus, but when you should return, where can people follow you?
Have I'll be back. I won't be gone for too long. The only social media site that I find myself really sticking to is Instagram. And I've been gone for so long. What's my username? At Imani Hakim.
There it is. There it is. I have it right under. It's right under your picture, so they can see it.
Oh, great.
Yeah, but is there any projects that you want to promote? Tell people to go check. Where can they check it? Anything you want? Is it the last minute is all yours. Whatever you want to say, whatever you want to do.
Yes. Okay. So we are gearing up to start production on season 3 of Mythic Quest. You can't check that out yet, but it will be coming eventually. I'm also co-produced a nice indie film called Dinner Party. It hasn't been released yet to the public, but we are getting that geared up. So please check that out. I also starred in it as well. Other than that, I am writing and auditioning and doing all the things behind the scenes. So I won't be quiet for too long.
Outstanding. Guys, this has been Imani Hakim. She has been phenomenal. Go check her out. Go support her. We will post anytime something comes out. You are a friend of the show forever. Whenever you want to come back, promote anything at all. You want to talk more nerdy stuff and pop culture stuff, we would love to have you come back and talk more.
For sure. We got to get deeper into the Marvel verse next time.
Part 1 is always, we get to know you. Part 2, we geek out and just have fun. I will let you say goodbye to the audience, and then I'll toss us to a break.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
All right, guys. We'll be back right after this.